Good evening. Happy Wednesday. Hump Day. We're all here together tonight because Wednesday matters. I like that as a title for this show. I just really do. Because it does. Well, every day matters, doesn't it? But there's something about Wednesday. Midway through the week, and we're all kind of taking stock of how the week has gone and deciding if we're on target or off target or whether or not we're doing what we want to do, if we are accomplishing what we wanted to accomplish, or dreading what is yet to come. So, Wednesday's a time for us to get together, to put our spiritual hats on, and to get back in touch with a greater truth than the appearances might suggest. The appearances can be pretty strange sometimes, can't they? And speaking of appearances, and this is a strange segue, which makes no sense, not even to me, but here I go. How are you doing? How's the weather treating you? How's life treating you? Are you getting out and about at all? Are you pretty much just staying inside and staying safe? It's an interesting time, isn't it? Very interesting time to see what the world is doing and deciding whether or not we want to be part of that doing, or if we'd rather be doing something else. Or are you looking at you in the grand scheme of things and deciding you might want to be something else, not someone else? I mean, that's just coming up with an alibi and an alternative identity. And I suppose you could do that if you wanted to. But I think most of us would be quite happy still being ourselves, but maybe a little differently. Maybe richer, maybe healthier, maybe more successful, maybe happier, maybe thinner. I mean, there's all kinds of options, aren't there? And probably as many choices as there are people on the face of the planet. If we all had to make a list of our top 10, I wonder how many of those lists would be identical. Hi, Jennifer. Divided attention, What were you up to? Now I have to ask. You don't get to say things like that without filling me in on the rest of the information. I'm much too snoopy not to know what is going on. Excuse me. Hold on, I'm going to have a little of my magic juice. We have the magic juice in on ice tonight. Tea and lemon. Yay! Works great. So, let me see. How's the world treating you? And how are you treating the world? What's up? Speaking of the house, Jennifer says. Speaker of the house.
Divided attention, the
Convention. The convention, of course. Bless your heart. And you're here. So I'm sharing time with Nancy Pelosi tonight, am I? Great. Great. That's good company. I'm happy. I don't mind doing that at all.
We're recording, right?
We're recording? Yes, we're recording. Of course we're recording.
The convention.
We're recording the convention. Yes, we are. I finally got it right. You do the convention and then the show immediately afterwards so that you don't miss anything. So as soon as this is over, we're going to go down and watch the convention too. But I promised to be here, so here I am. And I don't want to take any of you away from the convention because I know that that's important, very important. So, you can always watch me on replay too if you're not taping the convention. So feel free. It's an excused absence. Hello, Dana. How are you? Lots of strong women. Yeah, isn't it great, Jennifer? Isn't it great? I love it. And we're all kind of showing up at the same time. Good thing. You're one of them. I know that. You know, I always know exactly how far it is to voting time because I check your website. So I appreciate that. Ah, Jennifer can't record. Well, you then, watch the convention, sweetheart. That's important. And then come back and replay me. That's easy to do. I'll be here in an hour and all night long. So feel free. For tonight's talk, it's live and then it's recorded on Facebook and on the Relevant Spirituality page. But by tomorrow, it will also be on YouTube as soon as I get around to it. I haven't done that for the last couple of talks because we've been busy tearing computers apart and setting up the office in a new way. So if you feel like you've got a different angle on me tonight, you do. It's not decidedly different, but it's different. Hello, Tina. How are you? Glad you're here. Merlin says hi. I love you, Jennifer. You're wonderful. You really are. And thanks for keeping me posted on how far to the election so I know when I should start getting excited. Excited. We are all praying, aren't we? I'm sure we are. So, how are y'all? Those of you who are here and not watching the convention. How are you? How are you doing? How's the world treating you? Are you loving life right now, or would you change a few things if you had your druthers? Hmm? How's it going? I would change a few things, and I do have my druthers. I just need to get clear about it and then pray and get out of God's way. You know, there's the old story about Ernest Holmes, and someone said, if prayer works and you can do absolutely everything and everything is possible, and Ernest said, that's true, everything is possible. And he says, then why are you wearing glasses? And Ernest's reply was, because I can't see a darn thing without them. He just didn't care about that issue. That was not a big issue to him. And it might have been huge to somebody else. But for him, wearing glasses was probably not even an inconvenience. It's just what he did. And he was used to it, and he was comfortable with it, and there was no reason to change it in his mind. Let's see. Your son's 44th birthday. You aren't old enough to have a son who's celebrating a 44th birthday, Dana. I know that because I have a son who's older than your son. And I'm not old enough to have him either. We just decided at some point we wouldn't talk about it that way. I'm still 39 and holding and holding and holding. When my kids were little, they knew how many and holdings there were. It was embarrassing. So I stopped doing that. But, Satchel Paige said, how old would you be if you didn't know how old you were? And on any given day, I'm 80 or 8 or 18. I'm always surprised at things like celebrating a child's birthday and realizing that they haven't been a child for a very long time. They're still the kids in my book. Wow, Tina's buying a house and moving this winter. Where are you moving to? Fill us in. Druther. What's a druther? It's a choice. Cap will probably look that up and come back with a decent answer. Tina won't allow Matt to be 44. He might have some say in that. John will be 50. Yeah, well, there they go, huh? Those kids of ours. I think at 50 they're officially not kids anymore. But I'm never going to stop calling mine that, so they've gotten used to it. it was fun having them compare notes last Christmas about things that we've done before. But what's been even more fun is the family Zoom meetings, because in the family Zoom meetings, they start telling stories, usually on me. And I like most of them. So it's been kind of a fun thing to hear their version of a story I've told before, and see where it matches up and where that's not the way I remember it going. So there you go. John will be 50. Oh dear God in heaven, how does that happen? Tina says nope. Not true. So why don't I get on with what I've got some notes on and talk to you about what I wanted to talk to you about tonight, because I'm kind of excited about the whole idea. I think I was going to say parts of it, but I think ultimately it all came together and I got excited about the whole thing. So let me talk to you. I'm going to start with a little story, a very little story. Then I've got a little bit longer story. Tonight's going to be story night, I guess, from Marlene. So this little story is about Muhammad Ali, who in his prime at one point was on an airplane about ready to take off. Don't ask me where he was going. The story doesn't tell, so I don't know. And as the plane was about to take off, the flight attendant had to remind him to fasten his seatbelt. He came back sharply with a reply. Superman, he said, don't need no seatbelt. She responded even quicker. Superman don't need no airplane either, she said. The story says that Ali fastened his seatbelt and settled in quietly for the rest of the flight. Emerson wrote, get your bloated nothingness out of the way. Even more, I think I like something that Oscar Wilde wrote. He said it is absurd to divide people into good or bad. People are either charming or tedious. Plato said, no human thing is of serious importance. Well, then, in other words, I guess, get over yourself. Or at the very least, get over your idea of yourself. We must be awake if we want to change our lives. We can't be sleeping and accepting things as they are just because that's the way they've always been. We've got to learn, I think, to have a beginner's mind. Beginner's mind, to be open and receptive to changing. We've got to be teachable, changeable, in order to see the potential of the marvelous, even in the mundane, the potential of the marvelous, even in ourselves. When we get all wrapped up in our limitations, when we too often argue for our limitations, we don't leave room for the magnificent self within us to express. Soren Kierkegaard, in an essay, suggests that if we are to focus outwardly, we might consider the example of an arrow in flight, racing on its course when it suddenly stops, perhaps to see how far it has gone, or how high it has soared, or to compare its speed to another arrow, or to see and admire its gracefulness. But at that very moment, distracted from the truth By the appearances, the arrow falls, no longer able to do that for which it was sent. So today I was listening to a recording by Darren Hardy that CAC had recommended to me. She sends me these little things with a link and no comments. So I never know what I'm getting into. It might be a sale, it might be a speaker. I'm never sure.
An office chair.
An office chair could be. I got a whole thing on office chairs the other day, and the only one that I found that I liked was only available in lime green. So, but I click on what she sends me anyway. Anyway, this story by Darren Hardy. Um, and he said he got it from a friend who told him about it because the friend had watched an interview. So this is a few people removed from the original. But it's the story of a successful magazine entrepreneur, a very successful magazine entrepreneur. You can start listing the ones that you know in your head if you choose. When he was a child, his father had left the family, and he was raised by a single mother in the Midwest. He was, well, to say he was not good in school is putting it mildly. Mostly he was failing his classes. But he promised his mother he would take the SATs that were required to attend college because mother was a hopeless optimist, probably a religious scientist and praying her little brains out. Anyway, he took the test, and when a few weeks later he got the score, it floored him. He had scored 1480 out of 1600, which made him a genius, basically. Excitedly, he got home and showed his mom the letter that he had gotten, and the first thing his mother said was, "Did you cheat?" "No," he said, I tried, but I couldn't, what with all the way they've got it set up these days." "You mean," she said, "you really got that score?" And he said, "Yes, I guess I did." Apparently, he had always been really smart. It just took a standardized test to release the truth. So when school started in the fall, he had a new attitude. He asked himself, what does a 1480 student do? They go to class. They pay attention in class. They do their homework. They hand in their assignments on time. And they probably hang around with people who are smart instead of the people I've been hanging around with. So he started doing all that. He started going to class and paying attention and doing his homework and handing in his assignments, and he found he really wasn't comfortable hanging around with the people that he used to hang around with. And after a while, even teachers started to treat him differently. Their attitude was, maybe we missed something with this kid. So, long story short, he graduates high school with honors. He goes to community college for a couple of years, then on to state university, and then beyond that, to an Ivy League school. Ultimately, he went on to be a hugely successful magazine magnate. So fast forward to, about 12 years later, he gets another letter. Turns out that the SAT board periodically reviews their testing and their procedures, and they discovered that the year that he was tested, 13 people were sent the wrong scores, and he was one of them. he didn't score 1480. He scored a 740. Most people believed that his whole life changed when he got the letter telling him he got the 1480 score. But the man himself says, no, my whole life changed when I started acting like a 1480 person. What does a 1480 person do? They go to class, they do the work, they expect to score high on the tests. I started acting like a 1480 person, and it changed his life. So here's my question for you. If you were a successful person, how would you act differently than you do now? I mean, a really successful, if you were a leader in your industry, how would you act differently than you do now? If you were a famous, inspiring, world-renowned leader, how would you act differently than you do now? And Darren Hardy says, this is not about fake it till you make it. It's about be it now. He says your behavior is ahead of your success. And he's not wrong. He's definitely not wrong. But he missed a point, I think. Before the young man could behave like a 1480 person, he had to believe he was a 1480 person. Your behavior may be ahead of your success, but your belief is ahead of your behavior. If you don't think you can do it, you won't even try. You've got to believe you can. And then I think behavior and success go hand in hand. Ambrose Bierce wrote, I think, therefore I think I am. So what do you think about you? What do you believe about you? Ernest Holmes suggests that every one of us, every day, should let go of all that is not the highest spiritual truth and grab hold of reality. We should let go of doubt, distrust, worry, condemnation, fear, and lay hold of life. Life in its highest expressions of beauty and truth. Then he says, all that has seemed imperfect will quickly disappear into its native nothingness. To lay hold of life is to accept the real life within each of us. The life of creation, which is unlimited. It is to accept the real life within you. The creative power, the creative initiative within you that is unlimited. What a word. Unlimited. Without boundaries, without time or space or circumstances getting in the way, larger than all of that. When writing In Search of Identity, Anwar Sadat said, each should first recognize and be loyal to his real entity within. For it is this alone which will enable him to belong and owe allegiance to that entity which is greater, vaster, and more permanent than his individual self. What if we could surrender our preconceptions, our limiting thoughts, our absolutely positive it has to be this way beliefs? What might we be able to accomplish? What might we be able to become? What might we be able to change? If we could just change our minds about ourselves. Holmes again says, if we could give up our diseases, offer them up on the altar of faith to the giver of all life, we would be healed. It's not easy to give up our troubles. We're prone to linger with them. But by effectual prayer, we gradually lose false thought into its negative nothingness and simply know that God is perfect, we are perfect, life is perfect. And when we enter that life, we're healed. You know, they say, or at least I heard some time ago, that on the bayou there is a practitioner, a prayer who has the most remarkable results for her clients. And when she hears of a problem, she grabs her cat and goes out onto her porch and sits in her rocker. And no matter what the problem, she sits quietly and remembers what she knows. And she repeats the words, "Tain't so, tain't so, tain't so." Carl Jung, perhaps a little more eloquently, says when we look inside ourselves, we see the universe and all its stars and infinity and infinite mystery within ourselves, as great as the one without. In a prayer for his daughter, Yeats writes, "All hatred driven hence, the soul recovers radical innocence, and learns at last that it is self-delighting, self-appeasing, self-affrightening, and that its own sweet will is heaven's will." I think they are all trying to tell us that ultimately aligning with a higher truth becomes the revelation of the higher self to the self. It is the unveiling of the divine into its human expression. In 1 John, we read, "Whatsoever is born of God overcomes the world." Overcomes the world. Our belief and the exercising of that faith daily in the living of our lives overcomes anything. Anything that looks like imperfection. It overshadows anything that seems unlike heaven. Not to argue with one of the world's greatest philosophers, but okay, Plato, it may be true that no human thing is of serious importance, but the soul of humanity, its divinity, its unbreakable connection to the divine, its expression within every living thing and every living person, that is seriously important. We can overcome the appearances. It's a mindset. And that mindset then connects to something greater and unlimited. So let us overcome the appearances. Let us overcome our fears. Let us overcome our limiting beliefs and our doubts and the little lies of our daily lives. Let us surrender our tiny ideas of ourselves. And in so doing, let us overcome the world of appearances. Andre Malraux, in The Human Condition, says the great mystery is not that we should have been thrown down here at random between the profusion of matter and that of the stars. It is that from our very prison we should draw from our own selves images powerful enough to deny our own nothingness. The point is this: no matter what they say, no matter what they may have said in the past, no matter what you may have believed, if it tain't so, then don't you believe it. You want to be Superman or Superwoman or a stand-up comedian or a movie star or a writer or whatever you may want to be, you can be that. But remember that most things are not what they seem. And Superman, the real Superman, doesn't need airplanes. So, until you've really changed your mind, fasten your seatbelt. And whatever is holding you back, get over it. Get over it. Get over yourself. And get to God. So, that's my story. And I'm sticking to it. All of the stories. Thank you, Cac, for the Darren Harvey. I really loved that story.
You used it well.
Well, thank you. Can you imagine spending most of your life thinking that you were inadequate? That you weren't a terribly smart person? And so you lived up to that. He lived up to that, every bit of it. He was failing school and probably headed toward failing life until a fortuitous error told him something different. It's just numbers. But what would become of him, do you suppose? What would have been the end of his story had he taken the SATs and come away with a 740 and been told that he was below average? But I think fate stepped in. 13 people got the wrong scores that year. I love that story. And of course, I instantly want to know what happened to the other 12. Were their scores up or down? Was one of them a practical genius that got a thing that told him he was a 740? Now, my guess, if that's true, and the kid was genius level and had always been and was getting straight A's, he would have had to take the test again. He wouldn't have settled for it. But see, our young man would have settled for the 740 because that's what he thought he was, until he was told he wasn't. So I want to tell you tonight, that you're all so much more than you think you are. That you're geniuses, each of you, in your own way. that your ability to transform your life and the lives of those around you and the life on the planet is unlimited. I want you to hear tonight, as though it were a letter from the SAT board, that you are all geniuses, each of you in your own way. Talented and beautiful and exciting and filled with creative spirit. You are that. And if you have always thought that you were less than that, get over it. Now, don't waste another minute thinking that you have limitations when God is where you are, and that God is unlimited, so you are unlimited. Get over the little lies. Get over the stories. Get to God. Get to the truth about you. You can do it. It's not even a path you have to break out of the jungle by yourself. It's been done before. I just told you the story. If one's good enough, go with it. If not, look up stories of famous people and see what they went through and notice at what point they may have changed their mind about who they were and what they were capable of. Or better yet, write your own. Start there. You are a place where God is. You are a genius. And no one else can do you as well, nor can you do anybody else as well. So don't copy. There's no point in copying. That's cheating. And remember, our young man said he tried to cheat, but he couldn't figure out how to do it. And I think he went on to say that there were several versions of the test around him, so looking at somebody else's wasn't even going to help, which is a good thing he knew that, because, of course, if he had tried to copy somebody else's answers and it was a different question, he would have been caught cheating. So don't cheat. Tell the world about you. Tell you about you. You are a place where God is. You are a place where the infinite unlimited is expressing. Yahoo! What might you do? What will you do? And how would you be different if you were already where you want to be? If you haven't figured out where else you'd like to be or how else you'd like to be, good God, spend some time doing that. How is life going to get you somewhere if you haven't even stopped to think about where that somewhere might be or what it might look like? You have to give the infinite instructions. So once you've got that in mind, once you know how you would like infinite to look, how you would like your life to look, really, health, wealth, happiness, joy, expression, all those things. Once you have figured out what you would like that to look like, then start acting like you're already there. Start treating people as though you were already there. And if you think that in order to be successful you have to treat people badly, change your mind. You be the one who doesn't do that. You be the one who makes a big difference in the world and who people love and appreciate and want to emulate. You be the person that you dream of being. Just start being it now. Darren Harvey says that your actions precede your success, that it comes first. And while I believe that is true, I believe that your belief has to come before that. So start tonight believing. believing in yourself, believing in your place in the universe, believing in your vision of the future, believing that you are, and then asking yourself, since I am that, how does that act? How does that behave? What does that do differently than I'm doing now? And start doing that. And watch what happens. It's really about turning it all over, isn't it? I mean, you'll have work to do. You'll definitely have work to do. But it should be fun being the you dream of being. Oh, Susan, no air conditioning for 4 days. And how hot has it been? Yeah, well, there's nothing like chaos, is there, to point out to us what we need to work on. I'm still a weather wimp. I don't know that that's ever going to change. I don't see any need really to change it. It's kind of like Ernest Holmes and glasses. Although I suppose I could be more pleasant. I'd feel more pleasant if I'd get beyond that and start just enjoying whatever it is at any given time. I'm great on cold weather. I just don't do real well with heat.
No, you're not. You can't breathe in cold weather.
Well, only if I'm out in. I don't mind it being cold, is what I'm saying. I'm being corrected.
I live with you, I know.
Oh, but I don't mind being cold. You know that. You're always saying I'm an Eskimo.
Yes.
See, that was my point. If it's windy and cold, really, really cold, and I'm out in it, I have some challenges. But 94 each night, Susan.
Yes.
And no air. Have you got a fan? Was your electricity out too? You know, so I would say, I'd say when something like that happens, email me, and I can at least pray for you, or send you a fan, or both. But if your power's out, then you can't email either, can you? Anyway, I'm glad you're here tonight. I'm very glad you're here tonight. Thank you. Yeah, I heard your dog loves sponge baths. I bet. I need a privacy screen filter for my computer screen. But then I'll have to read that, and I realize that the lights pick up in my glasses, and I could take the glasses off, but I feel better with them on. Because this is what I do when I'm looking at the computer. I put my glasses on.
It's all about the angle. We have meticulously figured out the right angle for your beautiful face.
Oh, well, I'm not going to repeat that. If you heard it, you heard it. Let's see. AC men fixing tomorrow. Yes! This too shall pass. Yes, indeed. Okay, well, the convention's on, and I don't want you to miss all of it. And I realize there's not a whole lot left, but they keep the best speaker for last, and they're not letting anybody talk for long. Wasn't Michelle Obama fabulous? Wasn't she just? Jill Biden is warmer than I thought she was. I'm making my judgments as I go along. I wish they were showing us more of it than they are. I mean, if it was live and in an auditorium, they'd have been, I can remember it going on all day. Um, but here we are, and I think they're choosing well. The people that they've chosen, I'm amazed at the Republicans who are taking a stand for Biden. That pleases me that some people are crossing the aisle and saying what's on their minds. So there we go. Anywho, um, I'm going to let you go early so that you can catch what you can catch because it is live. Well, live on tape, a lot of it, or semi live. Um, it's important, and we should all be watching it. I appreciate that many of you have given up your time to do that, to be here tonight. Um, so go watch, learn, expand, and mostly believe in yourself, who you are, and what you're all about, because you're about God's business, and that's important. Susan, I know I promised you the golden meditation tonight. Maybe I'll do that separately and post it, and then it'll be there. Okay? Because I want you guys to. This is important. This is world changing. So, Mother says go watch it. I love you all. Take care of yourselves, please. Wear your mask. Practice social distancing. Yes, Mom. And pray. Pray to know the truth about yourself and to act accordingly. I love you. Be well. I'll see most of you on Sunday. Bring friends, please.